On our wedding anniversary, I was brutally attacked by a relative of one of my wife Laura's patients. My neck was slashed, and I found myself clinging to life, hastily rushed to the emergency room. Despite Laura being a renowned surgical specialist, she never appeared. Once I escaped immediate danger, I came across a social media post from Laura's childhood friend Mike. In his post, Mike joked about feeling so down he contemplated jumping off a building, only to have someone come to his aid. It was heartwarming. The accompanying photo showed Laura smiling softly while blowing on a bowl of oatmeal, taken at 3 a.m. Meanwhile, I was battling for my life in the ER. After being discharged, I discovered a substantial insurance policy at home, naming Laura as the beneficiary. Overhearing her mutter angrily in the bathroom, I was stunned. Damn Carter. If only he were gone, we'd receive $8 million from the insurance. That's enough to clear your debts. We weren't even 5 kilometers from the hospital. Bleeding profusely and on the verge of losing consciousness, Laura pulled the car over urgently. Get out, she demanded. Mike's depression is flaring up. He's about to jump. I need to reach him now. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Despite my severe injuries, with a deep gash on my neck nearly reaching the bone, she insisted I exit the vehicle. Attempting to speak, Laura frowned impatiently. Don't you know Mike is already on the rooftop? This is a matter of life and death. Can't you show some compassion? Without warning, she yanked me from the car, causing my neck wound to gape open as blood sprayed out. Desperately, I tried to hold my wound and begged her. Please just take me to the hospital. It won't take long. I'm losing a lot of blood and feeling dizzy. I'm going to die, I whispered. Laura shot me a cold glare. Calm down, it's just a minor injury. You won't die. I'm a doctor. I know what's serious and what's not. Don't you trust my professional judgment? If it's that urgent, call a cab yourself, she snapped before flooring the gas pedal. The car jolted, knocking me to the ground, my head striking a sharp stone. Blood covered my face as I curled up on the cold pavement, despair engulfing me. At the brink of life and death, my wife of 3 years abandoned me for a call from her first love. Moreover, my injuries were her fault. Today marked our 3rd wedding anniversary. I had planned a lovely dinner and was on my way to pick up Laura after her shift. Just outside the restaurant, some men abruptly stopped me. The leader demanded to know if I knew Laura. I barely confirmed she was my wife when he brandished a kitchen knife and began slashing me. Why does everyone else's surgery go smoothly? But my brother's didn't. I'll kill you for my brother. Damn doctor. I'll make you understand the pain of losing family. I couldn't evade in time, receiving multiple slashes and collapsing. The worst cut was on my neck, blood pouring out instantly. When Laura arrived, she embraced me, tears streaming down her face, apologizing for not adequately explaining the medical mishap to the patient's family, leading them to vent their anger on me. The biting autumn wind sent chills through me. Dizzy and disoriented, my vision blurred as cold sweat covered my forehead. I was certain I was dying. Fumbling for my phone, I dialed 911. Doctor, my carotid artery has been severed. Can you send an ambulance? I'm at... Before I could finish, a surprised voice interrupted. Are you Carter? Laura's been saying you're jealous and dramatic all the time. You've become quite the office legend. Are you faking it just for attention? The person on the line was one of Laura's colleagues. I'm dramatic and jealous? That's how she described me to them? Hastily, I tried to explain. No, I'm bleeding heavily. I can't stop the bleeding and I can't get a cab. I'm in danger. Please help me. The other end hesitated. We only have 2 ambulances on night duty. Laura called them for someone about to jump. Maybe call Laura? She's a doctor and knows your situation best. With no other choice, I called Laura again. The phone rang endlessly before someone answered. It wasn't Laura's voice. Want to talk to her? A male voice, Mike said, but I couldn't worry about that now. Please let Laura take the call. I'm losing blood. I need to get to the hospital, I pleaded. Mike chuckled. Truth is, begging won't help. I just joked about jumping and she left you for me. Carter, you're such a failure. She doesn't care about you. Hurting yourself won't change that. Why make up such a lame excuse? He hung up. Meanwhile, my phone displayed a low battery warning lasting barely another minute. I bravely sent my location and 2 words to our class group chat. Help me. Blood was everywhere. My phone screen blurred further as I faded, feeling exhausted like never before. Unable to keep my eyes open, I didn't know how long it was before a warm, gentle hand held mine. Someone repeatedly called my name, helped me up, and I was finally rushed to the hospital. In a daze, I sensed the medical team moving swiftly, everything more urgent than usual. The carotid artery is almost severed. The patient has lost too much blood and could collapse any time. We need emergency surgery. Prepare the blood. The patient's blood pressure is dropping. Start a transfusion. We can't handle it here. Notify the ICU. Where's the family? We need signatures for the critical condition notice and surgery consent. We can't reach the wife. Her phone isn't connecting. Amid the chaos, a calm yet firm female voice spoke up. If you can't reach family, don't wait. Follow the attending doctor's orders. Proceed with the rescue as per normal procedures. I'm his friend. If something goes wrong, I'll take responsibility. I can sign the consent form. I vaguely remembered this woman as my high school classmate, Sarah. We sat close back then and had a good relationship. But after I started dating Laura, we lost touch. I never expected that after my plea in the group chat, she'd actually show up. Her words were decisive. With her acting as interim family, the medical staff quickly moved me into the emergency room. They connected me to tubes and equipment. The patient's platelet count is very low. The bleeding won't stop, a nurse reported. The wound is deep with numerous neck nerves and small blood vessels. The surgery is highly complex. Only Dr. Laura in our hospital has performed this type of surgery. Hurry, call Dr. Laura. Lying on the operating table, I felt the irony. I had gone to great lengths to reach the hospital, only to realize my life still depended on her. The call connected swiftly, with the nurse explaining the situation rapidly. Dr. Laura, could you come to the hospital? There's a patient with a ruptured carotid artery. The surgery is too complex for us to handle. Laura responded with irritation. I'm not on night shift today. I've scheduled leave for tomorrow. I have plans. I'm not free. Plus, I'm not obligated to be on call 24/7, she added. Then I heard Mike's voice on the other end. It's late. Why's the hospital calling you? Laura, fetch my towel. I found it amusing. Here I was, near death on the operating table, while my wife enjoyed her time with another man. The oxygen monitor began beeping loudly. Nurses hurried to add more oxygen. The attending doctor glanced back at me, clearly annoyed by Laura's indifference, yet stressed. Dr. Laura, the patient's platelet count is dangerously low and the situation is critical. Only you have experience with such high difficulty surgeries. Laura grew even more impatient. He's critical? People with depression contemplating suicide are critical too, aren't they? I'm a doctor, not a robot. I have the right to rest outside of work. I have no time now. The phone call ended with a busy tone, leaving the doctor frustrated. Her husband needs constant company and she disregards her patients' lives? This is a life and death situation. A nurse suddenly gasped, noticing, this patient's wife's phone number matches Dr. Laura's. He's Jackson. He's Dr. Laura's husband. The nurse then redialed her. Dr. Laura, the patient with the ruptured carotid artery needing emergency surgery is Jackson. But Laura's response shocked everyone. So what? If something happens to Jackson, I'll sign a liability waiver. You don't have to bear responsibility. Don't call me again in the middle of the night. Let's talk when I'm back at work the day after tomorrow. With that, she hung up. The medical staff stood in stunned silence. Sarah left, upset, but returned shortly. I've contacted a renowned surgical expert. He should arrive in about 2 hours. Everyone breathed a bit easier, but a young nurse exclaimed, Oh no, the patient needs more blood transfusions, and the last AB-type blood bag is used up. Chaos erupted in the room. What do we do now? We can't operate, can't stop the bleeding. He won't last until the expert arrives. We've contacted nearby blood banks for urgent supply, but the fastest is an hour away. Then Sarah's voice came in again. Draw mine. A hesitant nurse replied, Ma'am, you just donated 400 cubic centimeters earlier. If we take more, your body... Sarah showed no hesitation. It's fine. I can manage. Saving a life is more important. I tried to move my lips, wanting to say something to her, but no words came out. Instead, long tears streamed down my face. Strangers worked relentlessly to save me, and an old classmate risked her life for me. But Laura, my own wife, left me to die while she was with her lover. I refused to let their efforts go to waste. With sheer determination and the blood Sarah donated, I held on until the expert and additional blood arrived. The surgery proceeded smoothly. My nerves and vessels were sutured, and the bleeding stopped. I lay in the ICU for a day and a night, finally stabilizing. My neck was wrapped tightly as Sarah pushed me in a wheelchair to a regular ward. It was then I learned Sarah was on a business trip and, upon seeing my SOS message, happened to be staying near the hotel. She came to check and ultimately saved my life. Not all was lost. I had apologized multiple times and planned to treat her to a nice meal once out of the hospital, perhaps even organize a reunion with a few old classmates. Just as I was lost in thought, the voice of the rounding doctor echoed down the corridor. Dr. Laura, Jackson has several documents needing your signature. That's when I realized Laura's leave was over, and she was back at work today. Laura finally arrived, reluctantly taking the papers and signing them absent-mindedly. While signing, she glanced at me. Oh, Jackson, where did you get those slipper lobsters last time? Mike loves them. Why don't you buy some more, cook them the same way, and bring them to his ward? Do it now. Don't keep him waiting. I never imagined that after a near-death experience, I'd find myself here. I almost didn't make it back. And my dear wife, the first thing she said to me wasn't to ask if I was still hurt or to comfort me. Instead, she told me to hurry and cook for her first love. She had signed numerous papers, including a critical condition notice, a surgery risk notification, and a list of used medications and supplies. As a doctor, she couldn't possibly ignore the significance of those documents. Even though my heart felt dead already, hearing her say that stung deeply. I swallowed hard. Laura, let's get a divorce. As soon as the words left my mouth, Laura's brow furrowed. She stared at me. How many times have I told you? Mike has depression. Are you so cruel that you want to watch him jump off a building? You just can't let go of this. Jackson, I'm really disappointed in you. I suddenly found her ridiculous. I shook my head. My carotid artery was cut, and you left me in the middle of nowhere in the dead of night. What about me? Didn't you think about whether I'd die or not? Laura's impatience and mockery were evident on her face. After signing her name one last time, she tossed the papers at my face. Aren't you perfectly fine now? I'm telling you, you're useless. You're not even worth a toenail of Mike's. You're lucky you married a female doctor like me, and you dare talk to me about divorce? Besides, it's just a simple arterial suture surgery. Surgeries like that happen 10 to 20 times a day with no issues. You're just being dramatic. Her words made my head spin, and the monitor started beeping loudly. Sarah quickly pressed the call button for a nurse, unable to hold back. What do you mean, simple arterial suture? Any doctor knows how dangerous his situation was. He's saved now, but here you are, making light of it. Laura didn't recognize Sarah. She laughed scornfully. Who are you? Our family matters are none of your business. Seeing Laura's bad attitude, Sarah responded bluntly. Who I am doesn't matter. But as Jackson's wife, what were you doing when he needed saving? Taking a vacation? Flirting with another man? I just don't get how someone like you became a doctor. The hospital should fire you permanently. Laura let out another mocking laugh, her chin held high. You want the hospital to fire me? Maybe in the next life. Just so you know, I've already passed my title review and I'm about to be promoted to chief physician. Go ahead, complain all you want. The intern handling those emails is my trainee. Even with numerous complaints, the hospital won't penalize me. Then Laura turned to me. So you want a divorce now because you found someone else to back you up? But anyone interested in someone like you mustn't be anything special. After that, she slammed the door, leaving me shaking with anger. Her words were too cruel. It was humiliating enough that Sarah, an old friend and lifesaver, saw me in such a pathetic state. Awkwardly, I said, "Sorry, I didn't think she'd say something like that." Sarah didn't seem bothered. "It's not your fault. You don't need to apologize." She seemed like she had more to say, but finally just told me to rest and left. Lying there alone, I felt like a clown trapped in a one-man play of a marriage. From beginning to end, the person Laura trusted and cared for most was Mike. So what did my years of feelings and effort mean? I was contemplating how to discuss divorce again when Laura returned. She looked transformed, her hair neatly styled, wearing a pristine white coat, light makeup, and perfume. I frowned slightly. Mike liked women wearing perfume, but I had sinus issues and couldn't stand any fragrance. I had told her that many times, yet she remembered none of it. She sat beside me, tucked me in with a guilty look, and said, "Jackson, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have left you like that. Nor should I have blamed your old friend who saved you. If it weren't for her waking me up, I wouldn't know what a big mistake I made. If she'd said these things before, maybe I'd be touched. But after life and death, it all feels gross and fake." I pulled my hand away and asked coldly, "What do you want?" She cleared her throat and got straight to the point. "The health bureau leader is visiting the hospital. They heard we admitted a really critical carotid artery rupture patient and want to see you." I frowned. "And then?" "Then I want you to cooperate and say that I was the one who saved you. I've arranged everything. If you play along, not only is my promotion a sure thing, but I could also be this year's surgery star. Don't slip up." "Okay," I responded reluctantly. "You'll have a famous wife representing the hospital. Good for your reputation." I was disgusted by how shameless she was. She didn't care if I lived or died, but was quick to grab credit. If I wasn't weakened from surgery, I'd have stood up and slapped her. But just after surgery, with Laura as my only family around, I dared not refuse outright, only nodded silently. Laura seemed pleased with my response. "Don't worry. After this, I'll definitely make it up to you." Just then, the door opened and the director walked in smiling. This was the hospital's director of the health bureau. I immediately recognized Sarah behind him. She was the health bureau leader. No wonder when she confronted Laura, her tone was authoritative. Her so-called business trip was actually a hospital inspection. Knowing this when she saved me, obtaining blood bags from other hospitals was surprisingly easy. A single call, and experts would fly in overnight. That seemed reasonable enough. Laura was obviously taken aback, too. Just when I thought she would apologize, she suddenly tossed aside the medical files and covered her mouth, bursting into laughter. "Quite daring to pretend to be a health department leader. Don't think you can scare me with that." She confidently approached the director. "Director, this so-called health department leader is a fake. Maybe Jackson hired an actress to frighten me. Every inspection has at least 2 people by regulation. There's never just one person." I sat by the bed as Laura put her hands on her hips, rudely kicking my shin with her high heel. "Jackson, fess up. How much did you pay her to act so hard?" The director seemed unsure since he hadn't met Sarah before, but seeing Laura hit me, he came over to pull her away. "Laura, let's talk it out." I wanted to explain, but swallowed the words. At this point, she was digging her own grave. No use giving advice she'd ignore. The director then left to make a call. Laura let go of me and called security. The guards, familiar with Laura, immediately responded upon hearing someone was pretending. With Sarah restrained, Laura rolled up her sleeves. Seeing her intent, I hurriedly stopped her. "Laura, I'm not paying anyone to act. Think about the consequences." "Consequences?" she sneered. "You'll learn a tough lesson. You slut, seducing my husband. Enjoy pretending to be a leader." Sarah was caught off guard, staggering as her face swelled up quickly with anger. I struggled to rise. "You fool!" Laura looked down at me. "You feeling sorry? I'm going to be chief physician soon. Beg me, and maybe I'll spare you for old time's sake." I was too enraged to speak. "Chief physician? Dream on." Moments later, the director returned in a hurry, followed by someone with an ID badge. I confirmed with headquarters. "This is our leader for the visit." Sarah came with her, but went to the restroom. The director's eyes widened, seeing Sarah's swollen face. His tone changed immediately. "What happened here?" He was anxious and frustrated. "Laura, you've put the hospital at risk." He turned to Sarah, nearly kneeling. "Please come. Let's treat your injury. I'm so sorry. It's my failure as a manager. Rest assured, I'll handle this and give you a satisfactory explanation today." Sarah sneered. "Handle it? How? It's not just the assault. Her indifference to patients' lives is alarming, and suggesting signing a waiver is reckless endangerment. Does someone like that belong in a hospital? Or are you saying, to protect the hospital's image, you condone doctors taking undeserved credit?" Ignoring moral decay, the director broke into a cold sweat and quickly announced, "Laura, you're fired. From today, no, from now, you're no longer a doctor here. We have zero tolerance for unethical behavior." Laura seemed to recognize the other leader and realized her blunder. Hearing the director's words, she panicked, collapsing to the floor. "Please let me explain." Sarah coldly glanced at her. The door slammed shut behind. Laura was nearly caught by it. She glanced at me, agitated. "Why didn't you warn me, jerk? Enjoying watching me embarrass myself?" I was speechless. Didn't I already hint at the consequences? Laura was left speechless, stormed off in anger. Even from afar, I overheard someone in the corridor muttering, "Serves her right. Never responds to ER calls. Doesn't care about others' lives. She doesn't even value her husband's life, let alone others. Always cozying up with her lover. Disgusting. And she wants to be a chief physician? Please." After they left, I rested a bit since the 4 drips had finished. With no nurse answering the call light, I pulled the needle out myself and slowly got up to find help. Just stepping outside, I heard someone in the next room sighing deeply. It sounded like Mike. I used credit cards and online loans. Thinking of debt collectors gives me jumping-off roof thoughts. Laura's familiar voice was heard, gently comforting. "Don't worry, Mike. We'll figure it out. I won't let anything happen to you." Mike replied with some resentment. "What can you do? The promotion's probably gone. I lost $5 million. Maybe it's better if I just die. One and done." Laura eagerly tried to cheer me up. I was furious. It was all my fault. Not only did I not have her back, but I actually conspired with outsiders to ruin her. The real enemy was me. If I just dropped dead, I'd get my hands on $8 million in no time and wouldn't need to worry about promotions or anything else. $8 million. Then it hit me. 2 years ago, right after we got married, I used our savings to buy hefty insurance policies for both of us. As newlyweds, we made each other the beneficiaries. Now the 2-year term was up, and the policy was in force. Accidental death payout? $8 million flat. Laura had been ranting. I had seen her health check report. Low platelets, a clotting disorder. A bleed wouldn't stop easily. That's why I knew that relative would cause trouble. I left Laura's file on the desk intentionally. If I had known he was this tough, I'd have stalled a bit longer, waited until he was beyond saving, then left him to die properly, ensuring he couldn't call for help. My fists clenched, palms icy with sweat. Recently, I heard the stock market was booming, hitting limits up several days straight. Mike invested heavily and made a killing. Laura didn't stop bragging about how clever and gifted he was with investments, claiming he was a born CEO. But this month, the market tanked, hitting limits down multiple times. Laura had asked me several times to lend Mike cash to cover his positions and cut losses. She never handed over a cent of her paycheck. All household expenses were on me. Even her ailing mother's meds came out of my pocket. I had some savings set aside for her maternity fund, and I wasn't about to blow it on their stock market mischief. I flat out refused. Little did I know she had her eyes on the insurance payout and might even set me up to die accidentally. I barely remember how I got back to my hospital room trembling in my bed. I thought Laura just didn't love me and was involved with another man. But wanting me dead? I never saw that coming. With my parents far away and me fresh out of surgery, frail and alone, I was an easy target. Laura could fight the divorce, stall me, and pull some covert moves. Then what? Sarah saved me once. There was no guarantee she could again. The thought alone unnerved me. I typed up a divorce agreement, wrote, erased, and rewrote it 1,000 times, making concessions for Laura. In the end, I tossed the phone aside. Laura's hospital troubles ensured she wouldn't let me off easily. I stayed a few more days in the hospital. To my surprise, Laura didn't even once bother me. Discharged and with paperwork done, I stumbled into Laura at the hospital entrance. Unfazed, she reached for my things. "Jackson, let's go home." Her words chilled me. I reflexively stepped back, lying without thinking. "I'm not going home yet." Laura, smiling good-naturedly, agreed. "No worries, let's not then." Grinning knowingly, I knew Sarah was sticking around. "Give her company, will you? And explain it all for me, Jackson. You know, I'm from a rural place, worked hard to get where I am." "Getting fired is the end," she snuggled up, pleading. "Honey, please, help me just this once. I'll even let you take her home these days. Whatever you guys are up to is fine by me later. I'll make it up to her personally." Stunned, I stared. Was she suggesting I take Sarah home for a date? Her lack of scruples never ceased to amaze me. "I'm aware she donated 1,200 cubic centimeters of blood for you, nearly passed out. Love-struck women will do anything. She'll listen to you if she's into you." I came back to reality, a plan forming. "Having sweet dreams, Laura? Think about it. You insulted her, slapped her, called her a mistress. Her face is mud now. She's no fool. She won't easily forgive you for your sorry sake." Laura was stunned, pausing before asking, "So, what should we do?" Feigning difficulty, I responded, "There is a way, but forget it. You'd never go for it. Let's just go home." I pretended to head for the car. Laura panicked. "Jackson, you're my best chance. What's your idea?" "I'll agree, no problem." Hesitating on purpose, I finally suggested, "Let's get a divorce." "Show some intentions here. If I'm single, Sarah won't have anything on you. We'll know you mean business, so I can talk her over. But it's a fake divorce, of course. Don't get ideas once we split. Don't get ideas once we split. Don't run off to Mike. Cheat, and I'm out." I had made up for previous fights. Laura didn't linger long on it. She rushed to say, "Relax, honey. Mike and I are purely platonic. Just care for him due to his depression. You know how good you are to me. I'd never betray you." Her deception flowed too smoothly. Seeing me still unmoved, she urged, "What are we waiting for? Draft the papers. The civil affairs office is right there. Let's do this." I pretended to browse my phone, but had the agreement done ages ago. I printed it nearby. She didn't bat an eye before signing, dragging me through the divorce swiftly. She then dropped me at Sarah's hotel doorstep. I watched her drive off with a smug look on her face. She sneaked out the back door of the hotel. Fake divorce? Who's faking a divorce with her? I have no evidence she's trying to kill me. Even if I went to the cops, it wouldn't help. After all, I'm still here, alive and kicking. Haven't received any insurance money either. She could easily brush it off, not admit a thing. So I proceeded to get a divorce. I obtained the freshly printed divorce certificate. Legally, I had nothing to do with her anymore. Right after, I called my lawyer and changed my insurance beneficiary. Once that was done, I went home. I hired a few temps to spruce up the place, packed all her stuff, dumped it in the hallway, called a locksmith to change the locks, and installed video surveillance by the door. After all that, I took a shower and slept like a baby in my now fully mine home. Maybe I was just burned out from everything happening lately. I woke up a whole day and night later to see a bunch of missed calls on my phone, all from Laura. I just ignored them. Sarah had sent me 2 messages. She said she was back at work and asked if I was okay after leaving the hospital. I politely replied, informing her I got divorced smoothly. Laura couldn't threaten me now, so no worries. I thanked her several times. I got up, opened the windows, and breathed in the fresh air. Life without her seemed pretty great, actually. Just then, the front door monitor flashed. Someone was lingering. Soon after, there was loud banging on the door. Laura's furious yelling echoed in my ears. The notice for my dismissal hasn't been retracted. You didn't do what you promised. You liar! This is my house, and you dare change the locks? Wait till I deal with you. She was outside, fuming. Nothing like her pristine white coat self back then. I know you're in there, Jackson. Come out or I'm calling the cops. I called property management and told security to sort it out. Through the monitor, I shouted at Laura. Are you crazy, Laura? We're divorced. It's clearly written in the agreement. This house is mine. My name's on the deed. What nerve saying it's yours? It's mine. My name's on the deed. What nerve saying it's yours? Go on, call the cops. See who they side with. Laura kept banging on the door. Divorce? A fake divorce. The whole neighborhood knows you're my husband. This is my home. I have things in here. I chuckled. You even tried to send your husband to someone else's bed. Fake divorce? Who's faking anything with you? You signed that divorce agreement yourself. The certificate, too, from the Civil Affairs Bureau. Legally, I've got nothing to do with you. Got your stuff all packed up in the hallway. Go pick it up. Laura was at a loss for words, then started wailing. You don't help me now. Don't come begging later. I won't be nice to you. Divorce me and I'll die right in front of you. I chuckled. Hey, if you want to die out of respect for our past, I'll get you a nice urn. Want to pick a design now? Laura fumed. Fine, we're done. Just reminding you, once you're out of this village, there won't be a shop like this anymore. Don't forget how you used to tag behind me like a puppy. Even on your knees, don't come asking. Loving you was a mistake back then. But regretting the end with someone who wanted me dead? That's a whole new level of stupid. The security guards arrived. Sorry, Miss Laura. Now that you're divorced, we're just following the owner's orders. Please leave. Find Jackson. You're ruthless. With Laura gone, back inside my place, I felt uneasy. Knowing Laura, if she could even attempt murder, she wouldn't let this slide easily. Sure enough, by morning, the police knocked on my door. Mr. Carter? A gut feeling told me this had Laura's fingerprints all over it. I checked through the peephole and the monitor, ensuring the ID badges before opening the door. As soon as I did, there was a click. You're in cuffs, Mr. Carter. You were involved in a hit and run last night. You need to come with us. I took a step back. Officer, you must have gotten it wrong. I was home last night, hardly out driving. The officer thought for a moment. You were home? Any witnesses? I shook my head. I slept alone. Nobody saw. The officer remained expressionless. Traffic cameras caught a driver resembling you. The vehicle involved is in your garage. Let's go. Answer questions at the station. At the station, I got the details. My car hit a Maybach last night. About a $300,000 fix. It had a dash cam, but it was wrecked. Memory card missing. Definitely Laura's doing. The car was a wedding gift from my mom, registered in my name. I work nearby. Most of the time, Laura used it. It wasn't worth much, so I didn't care when she kept it after the divorce. She must have set this up at night for the cameras to miss clear footage. The driver was dressed like me, no doubt, a setup so I'd take the fall. Damn, over 300 grand just like that. Insurance probably won't cover it since there's license plate covering and it's a hit and run. Having me deep in debt wouldn't help Laura, only she'd do something like this just to mess with me. Silently, I laughed inside. Too bad. She forgot one thing. I pulled my phone out of my pocket. Officer, I've got video evidence from my dash cam here. The dash cam in my car is linked to a mobile app. All the videos and footage it captured are instantly uploaded to the cloud and sent to my phone. Even if you yank out the memory card, it doesn't stop the cloud uploads. The cloud keeps videos for 3 days, which is more than enough. Sure enough, the dashcam footage on my phone clearly showed Laura, wearing my clothes and a wig pretending to be me. It even caught her flooring it and crashing hard into a Maybach. Plus, after she did all that, parking my car back in the garage and destroying the dash cam by taking the memory card, I handed the video evidence over to the police and cleared my name. I then reminded the officers to check the security footage from the property. Even though she tried hard to avoid the cameras, they still caught tiny clues. They found footage of Laura changing clothes and sneaking out of the parking garage. It didn't take long for Laura to get caught. The evidence was undeniable. The crime facts were crystal clear. She couldn't deny it at all. The moment she saw me, she pointed at my face, cursing me out. "You piece of trash! You'll never die in peace." I watched her pathetic outburst with a smile. Right now, she looked like a joke. If she hadn't been such a fool, how did she end up like this? "Laura, go sweat over the sewing machine in jail. Have a good think." Hearing the words "sweat over the sewing machine," she suddenly jumped up. "Dream on about me sitting in jail. The car owner already said as long as I pay up, they'll agree to settle it." She must have forgotten. All her salary probably already went straight to Mike. All she had left was an old car, over 300 grand. How could she pay up? I just smiled without saying anything. Laura got all riled up, trying to prove something. She called Mike right in front of me, but couldn't get through. She kept trying, only to hear the lifeless message, "The number you dialed is temporarily unavailable. On repeat." I smugly pointed out, "He's probably blocked you." But Laura didn't believe it. She borrowed a cop's phone to call him herself. Turns out, the call actually went through. She seemed like she'd grabbed a lifeline. "Mike, help me out. I crashed a Maybach. They want 300 grand or jail time. Didn't the stock market pick up? You've got a few hundred grand in your stock account, right? Cash it out and help me out." Mike's voice was ice cold. "Laura, we're just friends, remember? However much I have in my account, what's it got to do with you? Do I need your help spending it?" Laura got desperate. "Mike, last time when you lost money, I even took out tens of thousands in online loans to help you out when you had depression. I was the one who stuck by you, taking care of you, comforting you. How can you say we're just friends? Are you going to watch me walk into jail?" Mike chuckled. "What depression? I was just messing with you. I'm rich and idle. What's there to be depressed about? Every day is a happy day for me." "All right, enough of that. I'm busy. My girlfriend needs me." I clearly heard a woman's voice on the other end, giggling and sweet-talking. Mike answered with a playful tone, then hung up. Laura was so mad she could explode. "A liar. He's just a liar. He promised to always be there for me, to love only me, just a player." I couldn't help but snort in laughter. "Ha! Who was the one earlier swearing up and down that she was pure and innocent, realizing she got dumped by Mike again?" Her whole demeanor deflated. Her face looked lifeless. Then, surprisingly, her expression changed in an instant. She kneeled before me and grabbed my leg, sobbing. "Hubby, I was wrong. I was blind, made bad choices, I was conned. I see that now. Hubby, please forgive me, I'm sorry. Let's get back together. We'll be a family. I'll give you a kid, okay? Once a couple, lifelong support. I know you won't abandon me, right?" I looked at her, expressionless, realizing she was being insincere. Huh? Great excuse for herself. Even now, she wasn't genuinely remorseful. She was only saying sorry because she didn't want to go to jail and had no money to pay. I pushed her away. "That's enough, Laura. When you left me bleeding out on the side of the road, knowing full well about my clotting issue. When you plotted with someone else hoping I'd die soon so you could claim insurance money. Did you ever think of being a family? You framed me. Did you ever think I might go to jail? No money to pay? Then go to jail and stay there as long as you can." Feeling a weight lift off, I turned and walked away decisively, unlike the day Laura left me on the road at midnight. She couldn't pay up, so the Maybach owner sued her. Laura was sentenced to 5 years in prison. When her sickly mother heard the news, she blasted me over the phone. Although she wasn't fond of me to begin with, considering she was my elder, I didn't respond. Who would have thought she'd get so riled up? She collapsed, dead from a heart attack. Laura lost her job, her family, her freedom. The only one left who cared about her was her own mother. She also lost everything. The court ordered her to auction off all her assets to compensate the Maybach owner. I heard she also amassed a massive amount of online debt from borrowing money from Mike's margin call. In deep despair, Laura ended up with severe depression while in prison. A year later, she took her own life. As for me, after the divorce, I had more time to focus on work. My income steadily increased. Everything was going smoothly, and life was good. One day, near the end of my workday, I received a call. "Is this Mr. Carter? We're from the insurance company. Your ex-wife bought a policy with us 4 years ago. You're the beneficiary. Now that she's deceased, there's an $8 million payout. When you're free, please bring your documents to process the claim." That's when it hit me. Though Laura ended up in prison, her cause of death was suicide due to depression, and it had been way more than 2 years since she bought the policy. When we divorced, she hadn't had the chance to change the beneficiary before going to prison. So even though she was my ex, I was still the beneficiary according to the contract. All her cunning plans, but I unexpectedly received a windfall. I took her death insurance payout. The next day, I bought a villa in a high-end community, paid in full. I listed the house Laura and I once shared for sale online. After finalizing the villa purchase and furnishing my new place, I moved in quickly. The day after, someone called me from the front door. "Carter, welcome to our neighborhood." I turned around and it was Sarah. She stood by the door next to mine in a dress, smiling like an angel. Without her work clothes and with light makeup, she looked stunning. I was pleasantly surprised. "You live here too?" She nodded. "Of course. Don't you remember? I recommended this neighborhood to you." I knew her family was in business and pretty well off. Over the past year, I reconnected a lot with old classmates and often saw Sarah. She was always friendly towards me. "Just moved in, haven't started cooking, right? Come over for a meal. My mom's a great cook." She half dragged me inside with enthusiasm. Her parents were warm, but their gazes were a bit strange. During dinner, they kept asking about my family and if I wanted kids, even a second one. I was puzzled while Sarah nudged me under the table. "My parents are constantly nagging me to get married. So annoying. You owe me big time, so do me this favor. Pretend for a bit, will you?" I froze for a moment, looking at her sweet profile. Something nudged softly inside me. I put on a serious face. "No, I don't want to pretend to be your boyfriend." Sarah looked awkward, almost on the verge of tears. I leaned over and whispered in her ear, "How about we skip pretending? Let's try for real." Her face turned bright red immediately, but she moved closer and hooked her arm around mine. "You're mean.